Army and then the Heimerdinger as well, which she's kind of struggled on. So now we're going to have to see if AL are going to close out the series in this game. Can you do it with Sword Up on another kind of pick than the Yuumi, which he's been more successful on?
Let's wait and see. Will the Varus, the Ashe, the Lucian, and the Zeri all taken away? You got plenty of priority junglers on the other side of this one here, and that's what I was thinking there. The Elise could be the go-to here for Xiao and this has been very much Xiaohao's kind of style. He's been one of the few junglers in our league that has had to rely on some of those earlier skirmishing junglers like the Xi'an. We saw him earlier this week, but now coming back into something that's a little bit more meta, but also just as powerful in those first few levels.
So, you understand that the Elise is going to have kind of powerhouse level 3 ability to impact a lane. Most of the time, Elise actually hangs around bot lane nowadays. So picking yourself something which is self-sufficient, can maybe 2v3 in this bot lane, is pretty okay, especially something like a Heimerdinger can achieve that. You're going to pick up, well, you can't pick up the Ashe or the Varus alongside it. So what else are you going to pick that can kind of sit there and effectively soak pressure at level 3 if that's your goal?
Well, now you know you're going into the jungle matchups, so Heimerdinger locked in, and they're going to get themselves that nice little bit of support. Still very powerful. We are still on 13.1, so very much a power pick in the meta right now, but we are seeing teams shy away from it a little bit, and it is kind of a symptom of the LPL because we spend so long on a patch, but they know a new patch is coming. Some teams just tend to kind of say, look, let's just pretend that we're not on that patch right now. Let's just pretend that we're on the new one, and we're going to try and make this one work so they have a little bit of a leg up as they go on. It is a strategy. I believe RNG did it in summer 2021 that
that's
it started
really cool
1-5.
to have. I like that a lot.
It's an interesting one. It's a curious way to kind of put it. But now AL picking up the Caitlyn themselves. Could see a Caitlyn Lux angle coming out here if they really want to go for it. Of course, we did see Iwandi with the Caitlyn support in that last game, so it is technically still a little bit of a flex. But AL saying, look, we're going to get ourselves that good combination with the Elise with the Jace.
Yeah, that's so. Going back to the Caitlyn though, Betty hasn't played the Caitlyn yet. So they've only played one game of the Caitlyn Have Anyone's Legend, and that was a Caitlyn support for Sword Art. So that flex, very right to call that one out. And again, we kind of talked about how Anyone's Legend and particularly Sword Art have struggled a fair amount. The Yuumi's kind of, the Zeri Yuumi have given Betty and Sword Art late game endurance, but also given them kind of like a very defined play pattern to play towards. The immediate thing I'm already picking up from the difference between this first and the second draft is you're playing around the Elise, the Caitlyn, the Jace. These are hard champions to play, particularly around snowballing early game. You make one mistake, you don't exactly have much of a HP bar on any of these champions. You die pretty quickly. This is not going to be nearly as easy as the first game in terms of pulling off a combo with a Camille Galio. So I'm worried now that you're playing against Jhin Heimerdinger, which you can't really 2v3 against, or 3v2 against in that bot lane very easily. Hope and Iwandi lots of ability to outplay even when Elise is at their point of strength. And then the Sejuani able to pick off anyone across the map in later levels. I don't think you've got many good options to play through early game for AL right now, or at least it's harder to do so, and that worries me.
See what they end up going for. I was just about to mention that it will be interesting to see if either team does ban the Renekton as a very good combination with something like Sejuani, but also just as good with the Elise. So it is WE to pull the trigger on that particular ban.
We had two of the historic kind of like Renekton combos there. That was a good call. I like that. Yeah.
Just the niddly we were missing out.
But it's nice to call it out.
Yeah, they're there. They're there in that regard. And the Syndra banned away as well. Rounds out the last of the few bans. WE looking to try and maybe get something here for Shanks. Could go back towards the right. Again, Shanks didn't have a bad game. Like, Shanks played very, very well. And even having the rise into the Jace will have that early push for the first few levels. So very curious to see what they want to go for. They are going to wait to see where this Jace is definitively going. Could be a top lane Jace, of course. Has still got that solo lane flex. And they'll lock in the K'Sante, still just as broken nowadays, even on the most current patch, regardless of which one you're playing on. So having that for BuBu, I feel will give him a little bit more safety and definitely well, I hope, touch wood, he will have a little bit more agency going up towards that top side.
Now, we have seen, particularly in the LPL, K'Sante blind picks very much punished with the Xi'an. In this draft, I don't mind picking the K'Sante, particularly if you're going to, if you've seen AL kind of play towards their own dive combos towards that top lane. K'Sante is very hard to dive in his own right. Not going to be the case in this one, though, and we are going to see Betty on the Caitlyn. He is a very historic Caitlyn player. He's played it for many years, and of course, Betty and Sword Art played many combos like this on the Flash Wolves. Caitlyn Lux going to come out. And the Aurelia before Shanks comes out. Look, Shanks, he didn't have a bad game in game 1, but he wants more ability to carry, more ability to pop off. The Aurelia into the Jace, that is a very flippy matchup. Whichever jungler makes an impact first is going to have huge value for their team in this mid lane.
Really is, and again for Shanks, curious to see what his stats on the champion. I don't believe we've really seen him play this champion before. I'll have a quick check there with our stats and
get on it.
Come back to you. Yeah, I'll get on to it. He has played it twice. Last time he played it was in the 2021 regional finals. 2 losses. So in his career, he has not won on the Aurelia when it has been set up for him and his team. But it's a new season, and of course, we've been talking about how well Shanks has been looking, even on and away from some of his more meta champions, and this is where we need to see him step up again, because the Rise was fine, but didn't have that survivability. The one thing you have with an Aurelia is you are going to be able to survive for a hell of a long time. That W is so good at just keeping you relevant in team fights.
Yes, this lane in particular, though, is going to be very, very important to track, because Aurelia team fighting from ahead is exactly as you described it. You get to do an awful lot. That W can give you loads of ability to outplay, despite the range from AL. There's some ability to outplay with that. But if you're behind, you just jump into the enemy team, you get CC'd, and you die. So, Shanks, a lot of importance on him to get ahead and stay ahead, particularly when you are into stuff like the Xi'an as well. Xi'an into a full AD composition, pretty much. The Heimerdinger adding a bit of magic damage to the portfolio for WE, but ZDZ, if he gets a lead like he does last game, similarly, very important for AL. Get a level 5, level 1 5v5 potentially. This Xi'an key, watch out for how much value this gets.
2 men and a turret to boot.
Yeah,
both.
Big value.
Big value. Well, it gets 5 gold regardless, as we can see now. Everyone is going to put it in. We do tend to have this a lot, but you got to be very careful. It's WE. You don't want to go too far forward. They're being corralled away and they're being harassed. You can see them being separated. Now Beautiful forced to use the Ghost, and nothing else was used there but a side of AL. Great movement here from AL, really punishing WE, kind of saying, no, you can't be complacent. You've got to be able to make sure you can exit properly, and they lose themselves a summoner.
And this is something of an evolution that we've seen from the World's 2022 meta of last year, of course, where you try and level 1 into the Heimerdinger to stop them putting those towers down. Because at level 1, if you got those 3 towers, then you get to get the recharge on the queue as well. So even if you take those turrets, you can place new ones down. It just sets something like these Heimerdinger lanes behind. When you're playing a Caitlyn Lux, you want to push. You want to push as uncontested as possible. Getting rid of those turrets is a great step towards that.
I'm curious now as with the junglers, looking at both these teams. Heng is going to have a little bit of a trouble trying to deal with the Xiao Elise. We have seen it multiple times where the Elise will just go for that full tree clear and immediately either look for a gank or an invade. Either or is fine. This Heimerdinger and Jhin combination, we haven't really got a chance to really talk about it, but actually just looking at it as well, I feel like the Xi'an, sorry, my mind is racing with a load of different ideas and possibilities. I want to get your opinion on this. This Xi'an feels incredible to me because you're full AD effectively. There's not really someone who's going to be able to take him down.
No, as soon as we walked into that level 1 kind of like 5v5, I was like, yeah, so if this Xi'an gets the lead, good luck with this. You're going to bully out for a little bit from this K'Sante, but the K'Sante in the individual matchup, as we've seen across the world, struggles into the Xi'an. LPL loves counterpicking K'Sante with this Xi'an. And something like the Sejuani, not awesome at punishing that lane either in the early game. If you get to a point where these team fights happen and you don't have Aurelia and this Jhin Heimerdinger with huge advantages, this Xi'an is going to rule the team fights.
Yeah, really well. Well, the mid lane is being contested right now. Shanks takes a very unfavorable trade. Xiao not doing too great either. As we can see now, there's a little bit of a trade back. Having that full Ionian Fervor stacked up means that PingZ knows he can't really take that kind of a trade anymore, and ends up being a pretty equal setup right now. Heng seeing if Xiao wants to move forward onto this, but you can see that with Shanks having priority on this lane, he's the one sustaining up.
Yeah, both these junglers understanding that if mid lane gets a kill and either way, things go from bad to worse for the losing side. So both of them are understanding that. Honestly, all of these lanes have really big implications if you get a big lead with 6-3. We talked about the Xi'an now, talked about that mid lane, and bot lane. We already talked about level 1. Both these teams really on the same page in regards to understanding if these lanes get ahead, things get very difficult after that point. So, going to get resets coming through, teleports into the mid lane after, as we said, the early levels of Aurelia versus Jace get a little bit scary. And now we have Xi'an walking into the enemy jungle, setting up the pushing bot lane for success and just being the battle ward, understanding that those camps are now up on that bot side and heading back towards this mid lane. Both junglers, again, understanding where the big plays happen.
Yeah, the big play is going to be on Ping Z. Has a phase rush to try and keep himself out and alive. The W hang. Which one do you want? Which one do you want? He was trying to figure out which one he wanted to go to. Ends up deciding on neither. And that ends up being a flash burn by the Sejuani. I feel like that could have been a kill, a very easy kill there on the Jace if you just decided.
Yeah, I don't think that Sejuani was in range to cast the permafrost, but Shanks fused back into the fight, really not understanding what the logic that was. But once again, we see one of these mid lane plays kind of fizzle out into nothing after a lot of posturing and burst comes through. No kills happen though. And we're at a point where, again, it's actually very kind of hard to tell who's kind of coming out ahead from this early game. And I'm kind of wondering now what the next set of plays is. Everyone's just been heading towards mid lane on cooldown. It's not like you have roaming supports that can happen with that either. We've got a Dryden coming up in the next couple of minutes, but strangely with these bot lanes, it's not really been about the bot lanes. For the first time in a long time, it is just about mid lane swing matchup. Let's see if we can influence that.
Yeah, and again, we're seeing that Xi'an not having the same level of effect you would imagine with Elise, trying his very best to make sure he is in position to deal with Heng, but not really gaining anything else off it. Goes back, picks himself up a Dark Seal, so if he does get a couple of kills, should be able to stack that one up very nicely for himself. Xi'an is not going to spot out the Sejuani, as Iwandi is wandering down towards this dragon with priority in mid and in top for that matter as well. It should be very easy for the side of WE to really kind of leverage this at the moment. They will get spotted out there by the trap. And then the turret still putting in work here onto the dragon. And everyone just kind of backs themselves away. It's very early. The dragon does a hell of a lot of damage, especially the Infernal Dragon. That does end up having that little bit of AoE. And now we go flash forward. Vanguard dead, but he's not going to get the flawless duet. He gets knocked back. And there's the W coming in, or excuse me, the E. Shanks does end up getting himself with the Defiant Dance. And they back themselves away. First blood, WE.
Really well played by Shanks to stack up the wave, understanding he'll have the XP advantage on that crash. Gets the level 6, all-ins with it, kill in this mid lane matchup that we've already talked about being so important. Shanks picks up this champion. He has not got a win on in his career so far out of the 2 games he's played on it. And then the third gets off to a good start.
Good start, better from WE as well. Seems like they're a bit more set in a much better way to be able to kind of follow up with Hang. Let's have a look at this one here again. It's just a very easy flash forward, get that Vanguard's edge down. Doesn't land the flawless duet, but doesn't really matter.
It doesn't really matter. Not even after like that 90% slow from the ult. But who cares? You have an extra point-and-click CC from the Sejuani coming through. Just done. The real hard work was in setting up for that play, which he does a really good job of. Aurelia is largely about wave manipulation, understanding when your XP points are, and all-inning appropriately. So, Wave going to be pushing back towards him. Xi'an and Sorta finally kind of trying to get something in this mid lane for Ping Z himself, at least try and secure this. And now this is going to have to be the state of affairs for anyone's legend from a large amount of this game from this point. If you have Jace in a lane versus the Aurelia, you're going to have someone hovering nearby. It's going to be very dangerous now that the first death has happened in that lane. You don't have a flash still. But of course, WE, they put that pressure onto that mid lane. They went for that 1v1, or at least that 2v1 dive. That does mean that they don't have the ability to play towards this dragon. They're going to give over the first dragon of the game to AL.
It's good priority leverage here from AL. They kind of say, look, Pinzi comes back. He's going to have flash up very soon, or at least the timer on it is very close to being unknown here on the side of WE. The actual ward being spotted, it's right in the corner. Yeah, it's like, that is
you know how
terrain,
these nature photographers go into the forest and they like leave these cameras like looking over like a log going across the stream. They just see what happens there. That is like the nature photography of League of Legends. Like, ooh, and here we see the wild Elise crossed over in the dragon pit at like midnight tonight. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Geometry helping them out there.
It's the way the game is set up. A lot of details as Ping Z now recognizing doesn't really have a great amount of vision to his top side, so doesn't really want to try and push forward there. But Hang, not to be left sitting on his laurels, does move himself back up towards that top side, has got the Glacial Piston available, so a priority mid and priority top. He should be able to confirm this Rift Herald, no problem at all. So ends up being a trade of objectives for the moment, and it's still only about 1,000 gold leads. EDZ might look to try and contest it, but he's a very lonely little man. he is not going to be trying to push himself any further than that. So Rift Herald picked up WE on the board again with some objectives. So looking into this one now, we're hitting level 6 as Nightmare. Where do you want to see this? Because the Xiao Hao at least hasn't really worked exceptionally well in this early game. So what do you want to see them trying to do to maybe get this one back online for AL?
Well, that's the difficulty, right? Because the 6 is hit from these two. Lots of great plays like that at least has to be in place to counter. You don't get to make the aggressive plays anymore. And in this case, you lose the flash again on Jace. Cannot afford to get hit by those skill shots. It is a very difficult scenario for this point in the game. What you're really looking for is to get Xi'an involved. As soon as you get Xi'an into the front line, able to tank up, as you said, in the early game, full AD composition from Team WE, that's where AL can come back online. But for now, because he gave up that kill in that mid lane, and the control of that wave in the mid jungle has gone to WE, that's where really the plays are going to be made for the next few minutes.
Keep an eye on it. They'll definitely want to try and secure this win. Again, they are still sitting at 0 and 7. A 2-0 would be fantastic to reignite their season. I don't know if Bubu really wants this fight, as he's taking a hell of a bad trade. He's going to try and take him in with the all-out, goes across the way, and there goes the unstoppable onslaught, but that's not really in a great position because you've got Ghost out from Bubu, which forces out the flash from ZDZ. ZDZ got himself a little bit complacent, thought he had the Hellfire trade, but Bubu's saying, you're right beside a wall, my friend, and I will take you out.
Yeah, Bobby Cinder doing a great job in the build-up to that play. No flash and Ping Z, remember, for this one. 2v2.
2v2, the flash in, Ping Z trying to see if he can survive. They're going to get the looks to come in with the shield, and that pretty much saves Jace's life right there. Ping Z not going down. Lots burned there, plenty of summoners as a heal from Sword Art as well, but good rotation here from Sword Art means that no other kill goes over.
Yeah, it is the name of the game for AL. Just be on call for whatever the heck's going to explode in this mid lane. There's still a big CS advantage continuing to increase for Shanks, but at least you're not giving over extra kills. Sword Art, Xiao Hao doing a good job of keeping their mid laner alive for now. So, dragging up in 2 minutes. It's a little way off for now, but WE still getting a lot of vision control towards this bot side of the jungle. I wonder he's starting to wander around the place now as well, but Hung doesn't have his flash, has his ultimate though, and that's still a flashless Jace. They were there to respond for the first dive. They're not here for the second one.
Oh, they're not here for the second one, but he doesn't land it right now. Can't jump onto the Sejuani, who is tanking. And a flash burnt there by Iwani to get him away from the light binding. Betty moving forward here onto Hope, but I think it's just going to be a little bit of peppering on the terms of the damage, and everyone backs away. But again, they're just really putting in work here onto the MVP from game number 1. Pinzy's just not been able to get going on this chase. He's like 30 or 40 CS down now.
Yeah, this mid lane matchup, as soon as you see it in that draft, it is all about who gets the first kill there. And now you start at 0-2-0. Jace, really good litmus test for this game to see who's ahead. And gonna go back to this replay. Honestly, AL have done a pretty okay job of responding to these plays, but the frequency at which they can happen is really scary. You've lost your vision control in this bot side jungle now. You don't see this coming. You don't have the ability to back off all the way. Because if you give up another full wave to tower, again, as this Jace, you're just going to go start falling into irrelevancy. It's going to be so difficult for you. You're just trying to buy time now, are you, as AL, to try and get your solo laners into this game.
And here I thought Irrelevant played in the LEC, but we'll wait to see how Pinzy is able to kind of go for it, as top lane is just going to be wet noodle fight, something really going to be happening. The big thing, I think, is in 20 seconds, you will have a dragon spawning, you will have flash on Shanks with that Vanguard's edge to make big plays happen. Shelly dropped into the mid lane, should confirm 2 plates, maybe even more, as Iwandi is in position to make this one a decent crash in as well, but yeah, this is scary, scary times right now. I will say the one saving grace for the side of AL is that the Caitlyn is very far ahead. Caitlyn almost towards that first item, expecting it to beat the Gale Force to keep herself alive and mobile away from a lot of what will be thrown at her from the side of WE. But now AL seeing if they can maybe rotate down the Xi'an. Has got the unstoppable onslaught should he go for it. They're going to try and bait him out here in the mid lane. Everything misses! Oh my lord, it was a comedy of errors! Hung tried to play Q to hold the discipline on the trigger, but then it just ends up going so wrong, and now you can TP the Xi'an back up, you can get everyone back in position, and now with a 4v4 though, no TP here on the top side, it doesn't matter, the Dragon goes over to AL.
Yeah, want to see if there's any kind of return play from us. You have Flash and you have ult from Shanks.
Shanks trying to see if he can make something work. The light binding is fantastic. Xiao though has nowhere to go, and BuBu picks up that kill. Nice little rotation here from BuBu. He TP down, but now you kind of have that push and pull. We're seeing these moves coming in. Nobody is around ZDZ, so he's just getting free plates.
Yeah, that Demolish proc on Xi'an allows you to take very opportunistic plates at these points. So, kind of watching the flow of this play, you can see that AL didn't immediately go for the Dragon when it spawned. They understood that WE were looking for the mid play again, so they hold off going towards the Dragon. They understand they can respond towards this mid play as they failed to do so in the last attempts, and they do get something pretty good out of that. Now they get themselves 2 Dragons on a Hex Tech Rift, which is the strongest soul in the game. They managed to get a little bit of gold back away from WE's mid jungle. And they get that gold in that top side as well towards this Xi'an, who is so important towards their team fight. So, bits and pieces starting to come together for AL, even though they had some difficulties in that mid-jungle 2v2 earlier.
I mean, they are only 2,500 gold behind, but they have 2 Dragons, so they're good. And we talked about the scaling that can come in. We're already seeing a little bit of that Xi'an health bar and armor just being put to very, very good use. AL now moving their pressure towards this Rift Herald. TP from BuBu was used in the mid lane prior to this, so he's not really in a position to contest this for the moment, but WE won it.
Okay, 5v5, BuBu on the flank, has Ghost, has ult. See if this Cassante can drag some back into the team.
Oh, he's getting dragged himself, though. He gets knocked up. The Secure, though, on the Rift Herald goes over to WE. They sneak that one away as Cassante ends up falling down. The upgraded Heimerdinger turret as well just keeps everyone away, but then you're all on the top side of this map, so trying to move in and try and defend this mid turret is going to be so difficult.
Oh, trying to see if they can mind game Hope. They see him around. They catch him with Q. Not quite. Hope gets away with that. And AL, really good turn on a dime to stop that dangerous Cassante flank. They're losing a tower on the side lane, but breaking up to the mid lane outer, they are more than happy with that trade.
Really, really are. There's the unstoppable onslaught, and not going to really land anything from it. It was more opportunistic than anything else. Shelly does get a second hit onto the top side, so if it's still 2 turrets in that top lane, it would be worth it, but Shanks, recognizing he has no real control, backs themselves away. But very quick turn, as you mentioned there, from AL to really solidify themselves and say, look, we don't really care about this Rift Herald, because they trade it back as just as equal. You would imagine the kill plus a tower for a Rift Herald and a tower is roughly the same gold.
Yeah, and when you're doing that, as the team which was behind, and as the team which really want to just get certain key members online, like this Xi'an, it's a big trade. You take that every time, and you're now at the point where you can see Xi'an walking in front of that mid lane turret and just defending it. This Xi'an is already getting to the point where he's not taking much damage. Gonna go back towards this replay, back around this Herald. The threat was obviously there from the Cassante. Really well played from Sword Art in this case. Actually, both members of the bot lane managing to really burst out that top lane threat, and that was one of the points where it could have exploded. It could have all fallen apart, but they managed to stay the course, keep themselves level.
This feels AL can see the win. They feel like they're in a good position. You know, Gale Force. It's in the water. They know they can feel it in their bones. I don't know. Actually, no, I don't know the full quote from the start of the Lord of the Rings movies, but I was thinking, I was like, oh, maybe I'll do it. It's like, no, I'll butcher it, and then everyone get mad at me.
I watched The Two Towers the other day. Just turned 20 years old. It's really holds up
and
still.
still incredible movies.
Yeah, still
I have
really
fun. Fun fact, I've only ever seen them once in cinema, never rewatched them, ever.
You've never watched the extended edition?
I've always wanted to.
Xi'an,
I've
no.
never had a day to do it.
No, not like this. That is more disappointing than WE in that first game when they couldn't pull off their combo. BuBu trying to right some of those wrongs, though. Managed to dodge out from that Lux Binding this time. Dragon in a minute. Turret's being set down. This is going to be a real push and pull. Mid lane, really important to push in. If you can push in through this mid lane, it allows you to avoid stuff like the turrets and the Caitlyn trap. So they're forcing it already.
Oh, they might have found out Xiao, but he goes up into repel. BuBu taking a lot of damage. Flash away. The Elise is not dead, but she is very, very bruised. So I don't know if she's going to be able to reset in time for this dragon.
20 seconds, not going to have home guard yet. Yeah, that should be W with priority over the dragon. They might get poked out, though. Jace is now at the play. Wasn't there before. But they don't have the vision to play around. WE really doing a good job this game of keeping vision control in the bot side jungle in their favor. Teleport back into the lane. Again, it's all about this mid prio.
It is about this mid-prio. ZDZ TP's in, and now with the unstoppable onslaught, might think about going for a little bit of an engage, but you can see now with Xiao having those hex gates, gets himself back onto the map. No flash this time around, though. Won't do a huge amount of damage, you would imagine, to Heng, as Shanks is up there with the flawless duet. They have to be very wary of where this Aurelia wants to position. Now, coming in towards this Dragon Pit, it's a bit of a setup here of a 2 on the flank and 3 in the main core. Good decimating smash from ZDZ, stops BioBio from really engaging, and this poke war continues.
It does, but ZDZ is so tanky. You're poking out a Xi'an, it doesn't matter.
Oh, they're poking a little bit more here onto Shanks, and he got caught. He tried to use the blast cone, and now you've lost a lot of your danger. You need to walk away from the ZDZ. Wants to see if he can make this one work, but without his unstoppable onslaught, he might not be able to. They're going to use the hex gates over to the side and push BioBio back. Betty, love the enthusiasm, but I don't think you want to be there, and that's going to be soul point now for AL.
But just look at the difference between these top laners. Hung trying to head in towards this dragon, but against ZDZ, this guy is keeping the door shut.
He is. They're not doing any damage to him. They will get the ult down from the Heimerdinger. There's the curtain call onto Xiao. If you lose the Elise, this fight's not quite over. BioBio! That was massive. Now he goes all out. Trying to see if they can make something work. The TP gun coming in from the previously dead Aurelia. And now Shanks can rip through these hellfires. He knows his target. And it was the jungler. WE were dead and buried to that soul point. And they just delayed it long enough.
Oh, and the Baron has spawned just 6 seconds ago. It's just come up. That can be the Baron coming in. I mean, W say, no, we don't care about the Dragon at this point. Let's snowball the game, get the Baron. With Xiao dead, AL don't even manage to stick around and get the objective for themselves. That looked like an unwinnable situation for WE after they lost Shanks on that flank, after they'd given up positioning on the objective afterwards. But somehow, some way, they get right back into the fight, and I think largely it is due to this K'Sante. BioBio doing so much work. The door is shut at this point, but K'Sante channels the W, manages to keep himself in that unstoppable, starts stacking up that Q3, and then that knockup seals the deal. K'Sante really bringing huge value to break open these battle lines and force AL on the retreat.
Oh, sorry, that was amazing. ZDZ and BioBio just traded positions, but now BioBio is nowhere to be found. He's not quite in a bad position. He still has a huge flank. We're going straight back into this. Does not have an all-out available to him. The Baron was secured by the side of WE, but now the soul point could still be a contention. They're dropping down traps here. You can see Sword Art and Betty trying to go for something, but here's Hope. Here's BioBio. They have caught him out just a little bit, and they're going to try and turn and burn onto him. They can't just leave this dragon, though. You have to remember that's still your objective. They flash in. They want to try and kill him off, and they will. No top laner, no real engage now available for the side of WE, at least not just solo. So now Heng with that Warmogs trying to just sustain himself up, and it looks like WE are going to have to give this one up.
Yeah, the hero of that last fight, BioBio, does not get to impact this one, and WE, they made the choice of the Baron over the Dragon. They returned to the Dragon, but they don't have the setup, and now you have to ask yourselves, what can they do with this hard-fought objective? You could have denied this soul point. Now you have to double down on this Baron and get as much value as possible to prove it was the right decision.
We are seeing plenty of delay tactics coming in here for Heng on this Sejuani, and it's actually going to work very well to stop this push from being denied, you would imagine. But with the Caitlyn finally coming back into it, 2 towers go down. You have a 5,000 gold lead for the side of WE, so they are still winning this match. However, Soul is going to be on the table in 4.5 minutes time. That's where this game, I feel, will be made or make or break, you would imagine. So we can see Heng with that Warmog's first rush doing very well to be just an absolute nuisance. I am not sure what happened with the red buff there. The Brambleback went very fast across the screen, but regardless of everything, everyone resets except for Shanks, because he maybe feels like, yeah, you're dead. Finzi, I don't think, unless he can dodge the Falls Duet, he cannot. No flash, no real place to go. Oh my god, you just can't escape there from Shanks. It does cost his flash, but another great kill there going to the mid laner of WE.
Yeah, Shanks has had enough of these 5v5 team fights. Goes back to where Aurelia finds herself at home the most, in the 1v1, in a side lane. Has the Baron buff to make it even more deadly. So, WE, they do lose that soul point, but away from the grouped up fights, get this Aurelia into a good side lane, things go badly for AL. What can they do in this 4-man group towards this bot side now to try and stop this push? The Baron's just about to wear off, but the engage comes in.
engage does come in. Sword Art flashes away, hit by the back end of Iwandi's ultimate. Shanks with that couple of more seconds of the Baron put does force out the unstoppable onslaught here from ZDZ. So 24 minutes coming up to in this game. As we mentioned earlier, it was a 5,000 gold lead. It's actually more like a 7,000 gold lead. Maybe even a little bit more, 8,000 now, as WE are starting to just take control of this game. They're getting more big item completions way before AL, and I feel like it's hurting AL quite a bit.
Have you ever considered like moonlighting as like, you know, like the count of count from Sesame Street? Could you do that but for League of Legends gold leads? Like 7,000 gold leads. Get to this replay. Yeah, look, this is just Aurelia things, guys. He's got 2 items and gets the reset. He actually doesn't get the reset in the minion, which makes this a little bit awkward, but every rank of Aurelia ultimate reduces your base cooldown of your Q, which means you have an awful lot of mobility. Jace doesn't exactly do that well against that matchup unless you can burst out the Aurelia on the engage. Not really in that situation, even with those 3 kills. And now Shanks does get control over the entire top side of the map, gets that top lane inner turret down, which of course they went to a little earlier, and now got that.
Hang flashes, has the blast cone. Very lucky that Mother Nature was providing right there. And that's no longer a flash available for the Sejuani jungler, which means that those flash glacial prisons not really an option. ZDZ now with a second item has got the Jack show to see how tanky he really is. Is being burnt down though quite a little bit by this Blade of the Ruined King setup. Glacial Prison comes out, they have got the curtain call, but look at this, he's just taking everything today. He ran into the 4th shot because he knew it wasn't going to do anything.
And he was like, well, if it doesn't do anything to me, then why should I let any of my teammates tank this? Takes it himself into that shield, and again, Aurelia, if they're in a good 1v1 side lane matchup, can do many things. And in fairness, give them enough time in the 1v1. Xi'an will die. It just takes so long. It's just not worth going for it most of the time unless Xi'an is really pushed up. AL, this whole game has been about, can you get the Xi'an into the game? And around these objectives, they've done a decent enough job of that. But WWE, at least kind of finding some space after that Baron take a little earlier to finally deny ZDZ value in this game. Going into this bottom jungle, vision control established by WE. EB, what can you do with this?
What can you do with this? AL are going to struggle, you would imagine, without ZDZ to push forward into their own jungle to try and gain vision control. I would love to try and contest around this dragon, especially before this Radiant Virtue is finished up for Hang, who's gone for kind of a mix of both builds. Went for the Wartmog's Rush, which is fine. We've been seeing actually a lot more, but then kind of went for a Balmy Cinder, kind of went for the Radiant Virtue, kind of testing the waters with a hell of a lot of different things. You can see he is tanky in terms of health bar, but he's not got any real resistances, so needs to be very careful with that. ZDZ moving forward.
So
everyone's
again, priority in this mid lane, got to fight over it.
Oh, they do stop him from getting the engage, though. He goes all out, but he's already taking so much damage. You can see ZDZ is just so tanky. He's doing everything he can to keep everyone from helping him. Flash was burned. Sword Art walks forward to keep ZDZ alive. TP is available. Oh, if that light binding lands, I feel like Heng is dead. And now they can move forward again with Dragon live. It's going to be curious.
Yeah, but with the Dragon live, it is, again, because you have Caitlyn traps, Lux, you got the Jhin traps, the Heimerdinger. It is all about trying to force in through this wider bush into the river. It's easier to get through that than the choke points. Mid lane priority has been forced by AL at this point, and Xi'an's in the river. Now what can W do against that?
Oh, TP from Bubu comes back on the backside of this. There's no real vision here. They had a pink ward on him, so they know roughly where he is. They don't know exactly his Heng. Gonna have to back away, use that Warmog's passive to get himself back up to full HP. It's the power of rushing that Warmog's into so much
vision on Bubu. He's got a flank here.
He's got a flank, but now they see him. They know exactly where he is. They're waiting for the unstoppable onslaught. You would imagine Heng taking so much. Like Wandy's almost dead as well. Here we go. ZDZ recognizing no one's really going to do a lot into him as the solo laners of WE trying to get a huge flank off. Sword Art heals to keep everyone away. There's the flawless duet coming in. That Shanks needs to be the hero. Flash forward there by Hope, as he does take out Caitlyn. That's a lot of your damage no longer available. ZDZ and Xiaohao running away. Cowards all the way back towards the mid lane, and WE finally get themselves a one fight in the 5v5.
The downsides of brute forcing your way into river. You don't have the wards to see what happens behind you. Bubu gets behind enemy lines. Shanks takes a long way around to join his fellow solo laner. And once again, WE find a way through these objective fights against what should be a very difficult team to 5v5. ZDZ, he's not dying, but he can't protect his team.
Cannot protect this team. Xi'an maybe thought about going towards getting a steal, but it would be a one-way trip, and there's definitely no chance of him getting in there without getting killed before that. So let's have a look at this one here. And again, just they have ideas of where BuBu and Shanks are. They're just very disconnected who they want to go for.
Yeah, and as much as we kind of talked about, how it's really difficult to dive into teams as Aurelia when you're behind, you're not behind at this point. You actually have enough stats to get... Oh, my, are you kidding me? Oh, that is insult to injury. The dancing grenade does a tango right on top of Jace's head, puts them into the gray screen. And Z, this MVP from Game 1, really struggled to be protected and survive these team fights. Despite having those 3 kills, this Jace has had a rough time of it in the 5v5s.
Really has. 11,000 gold lead coming in here for WE means they should, quote-unquote, have a plenty of it. But you got scaling, and we talked about this a little bit earlier. You're getting to the point where the Xi'an is just impossible to deal with. We saw it in so many of those fights. He's just running into people, not really afraid. This Caitlyn will start doing a little bit more than this lethality Jin in those team fights if you can get the Caitlyn to kind of plant her feet and get those auto attacks off. So this game is not dead and buried just yet, but it is still very heavily WE favored. They just need to try and wrap it all up. They need to make sure they don't just drop the ball now, as they are so close.
Yeah, well, last Baron we saw from WE, they had a death right off the start of it when they went to go contest that dragon. Not going to be the contest this time. 5 members with the Baron, pushing in across all lanes, starting to have this real chokehold on this game. But they don't really have ways to dive that easily. Hung's going for the ult, trying to catch someone out of position.
Yeah, it does get the flash down to PingZ. I've seen has to do that every single time, otherwise he is just going to die. So, and all these minions now cleared up, and I will say, for the moment, AL not doing a terrible job of defending their turrets. They haven't been broken open just yet, and this is the thing, if you can't break open turrets with this Baron, you're never going to be able to do it because your setup, your range is just so short. You need to be able to try and get in with the empowered minions coming in with you.
Yeah, that's why they're trying to go across as many lanes as possible. That's the difficulty of going across all of these lanes. You leave yourself open to get burst out. They got into a 1-3-1. Very dangerous, but I wonder gets away with it for now.
Away with it, and with only 45 seconds left, so really only this top wave and then maybe one more, you would imagine, for the side of WE as they look to try and get it. I don't think they're going to break open any of these turrets. They're going to have to try and rely on their gold lead in a team fight when AL are kind of brought out. And I'm not being real with you, it's that AL don't need to leave. AL have the 3 dragons, you don't. And yes, you don't want to give over 3 or 4 Hex dragons over to the side of WE, but I think if you're happy with scaling to kind of say, look, we don't care, then it's fine. But now BuBu, see if he can take a little bit of a 1v1 on that top side. 3 items here onto the Cassante as he goes all out. And there's going to be the unstoppable onslaught. Flash not being used by ZDZs. He's just going to be able to kind of tank that one up. Now that's the ghost sign. You don't have your big meat wall, and it looks like the dam has been broken. Everyone is just falling. You lost the one little thing that was keeping you all there and alive. It was DDZ, and with him out of the picture, it is going to be WE taking this series to 1-1.
Yeah, it's punishing the flash not being off the cooldown for just 5 seconds more, but those 5 seconds are enough to bring it to a game 3. WE, they have to fight for it pretty hard. They dig deep. Difficulties in those 5v5s, but they see it through.
They do indeed see it through. Betty trying his very best to be somewhat relevant in these fights, but look, you're just not able to do it. The health bars are too damn big. And now we go to 1-1. WE bouncing back in game number 2. It all came off of the combination, obviously, of Heng and Shanks just working with this mid-jungle combination to make sure that PingZ just did not become that monster of a chase that we have seen so often in this league.
We saw it pretty clearly, right? With matchups like that, you got, I know it's not melee versus melee because Jace is kind of weirdly both, but when you have such a interactive level 1, 2, 3 matchup around this mid lane, both junglers need to head there. One kill sticks so hard, and the first kill